What's up, guys? Welcome to the Put Me In Coach podcast,
where we go beyond the headlines and deep dive everything NFL.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Andy.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. You know, we were listening to you talk about Russ and about Justin and kind of this breakdown, right? And I thought about it and I go, well, why are people with real credibility in the media, and I use the term loosely, but, you know, these are their jobs, right? Real sports writers, real reporters, real football analysts, you know, and entertainment guys and fans so interested and steadfast in this idea that Justin Fields should be the starter when what you just laid out is clear. I didn't need to hear the numbers. I more agree with the Arthur Smith of it all and the style of football that they're going to want to play. It's very obviously Russ and the experience and the pedigree and the resume. I mean, it's not close. But I found myself wanting Justin to be the starter when it makes no sense and it has no reason to be. And I thought about this, and I thought, why would that be? The only answer I can come up with is because this team has lost its juice. There's no more excitement in Pittsburgh. And there hasn't been for a very, very, very long time. And I say very, very, very long time because in football years, it's like dog years, right? These things go by fast. You know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. It's a long time as a franchise to not have any juice going on in the building. And I think for me, it starts with the Tomlin of it all, right? To me, you know, Mike Tomlin is a legend. You know, we touched on Sean Payton a lot with the Broncos, and is it the right fit? Is it the right moment? This has nothing to do with my respect for Mike Tomlin and my belief that he is one of them dudes of our era as a head coach. The resume speaks for itself. I don't need to go through and point out what Tomlin has done and how successful he's been, right? He's got a Super Bowl ring. He's got no losing seasons. You know, he's put together many great defenses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Rooneys decided to extend him 3 seasons last month. I noticed he signed a new extension that would keep him in a headset until 2027. And I thought that was an interesting move. And part of it has to do with kind of an overwhelming philosophy that I feel like has engulfed this organization in recent memory. And the only way I know how to put it is that sometimes, especially for us men, right? And that's all I can really relate it to. And I'm not a woman, so I can't quite put it in that context. But sometimes comfort is corrosive. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, comfort feels good. It's safe. The comfort zone is where all of us kind of choose to live our lives for long periods of time. But I find that the most growth tends to happen when we leave the comfort zone. I don't think that Mike Tomlin is a washed coach, but I really, really would have liked to see him pivot to a new situation after Ben retired. I think that the Rooneys have sent a message with this extension, and Mike Tomlin has sent a message with signing this extension that we're never going to be what the Lions have been in past seasons and the Texans have been in past seasons. But because of that, we're never going to be what the Lions and Texans are right now, which is exciting. Look, going through the recent resume of Mike Tomlin, he hasn't won a playoff game since the 2016 season. Each of the last 3 seasons in a row, they have a negative point differential. And of the past 6 seasons, 3 of them didn't include playoffs, and the ones that did include playoffs were all wild card losses. Look, for me, when we talk about Russ and we talk about Mike Tomlin, this is becoming an organizational identity crisis of comfort with mediocrity, comfort with same, comfort with safe. And I think the reason why fans want to see Justin Fields so badly, despite all of the evidence that you just laid out, which is completely correct, by the way, not even close, is because at least it's something. It's something to talk about. It's something exciting. Did you see what Justin did last week? You're going to be what you're going to be with Russell Wilson, and then what? That's my point on it. Look, I think you touched on Arthur Smith a bit. I want to unpack the hire a bit because the more I kind of look into the Steelers, the more I see that this is, for NFL fans, a very polarizing coach, a very hated coach. Look, he went 21-30 in Atlanta, right? And for those of you, he coached there for 3 years. Those of you who don't want to math, that's 7-10, 7-10, and 7-10. He walked in, they went 7-10. He got kicked out, they were 7-10. That's what he was. He was a failed head coach. He was criticized greatly, I think, for good reason, with the mismanagement of talent around Bijan, around Drake London, around Kyle Pitts, his inability to get the most out of those pieces. I think that the Tennessee stuff for me is kind of where he cut his teeth back in 2019 when he got hired, and the Tennessee offense was 10th in points per game and then 4th in points per game in those 2 seasons that he OC'd. But I think my issue with giving him a lot of credit for that is that in 2019, when he took over that gig, he was replacing Matt LaFleur, who I believe is one of the premier offensive coaches in this game right now. So I don't believe he was the architect of those things. And also, not to mention, he was working with A.J. Brown, and he was also working with pinnacle of his career, Derrick Henry. This Steelers team doesn't have anything like that, and their O-line isn't even as good as they were with the Tennessee Titans were with Taylor Lewan and those boys, right? So I don't think the Arthur Smith hire is a home run at all, but I don't think it's a disaster hire because he's taking over for Matt Canada, essentially, right? I know there was an interim last year for a few games after Matt got fired, but Matt has been there, the last 3 seasons. During those 3 seasons, under Matt Canada, the team ranked 28th in points per game, 28th in yards per game, 30th in yards per play, 27th in red zone touchdown percentage, and 30th in first down conversion percentage. Part of my problem with this discovery, with drafting Kenny Pickett in the first round a couple years ago, when it was very clear he was a late second, early third round talent, and every single measurable about this guy's profile screamed backup. Where is he now? He's backing up Jalen Hurts after 2 seasons in the NFL. Drafting Najee Harris in the first round, who I do think is a good running back. I got respect for Najee's game. I don't think he's a slouch, but he's not a star. He's not explosive. He's got slow feet. He's got slow movement. He doesn't have great burst. He doesn't have great power. He's just a decent starting running back. Deontay Johnson being a wrinkle, and how do we blame, do we blame Omar Khan? He's only been there for a couple years. How far back do we go to really blame the situation? Who do we really blame in this situation, right? But I look at this roster, and you just touched on the O-line, right? I think the O-line got a lot better this year. Why has it taken 5 years? Ben was washed for 4 years. Where was your replacement when Ben was washed? I watched an all-timer be bad for 3 seasons in a row, if we're being all the way honest, and there was no backup. And it wasn't until he retired that you guys took an emergency pick on Kenny Pickett, who had no business getting drafted there. And then you look at Matt Canada's 3-year stint, and you look at those numbers, and I watched this team a bunch, so I've watched the games unfold and how bad this offense has looked. I say all these things to say I could sit here and do a roster breakdown of the pieces, and I love Pickens, and I like Jalen Warren, and I think Najee Harris is a fine player. I'm uncomfortable with how comfortable the Pittsburgh Steelers have become with mediocrity. And I don't think Russell Wilson's the answer. I don't think Arthur Smith is the answer. And I'm not so sure that Tomlin's the answer anymore either. So, for me, you have an identity crisis. And I'm not sure in a division with the dynamic Lamar Jackson and the dynamic Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow and, a defense now in Cleveland that's been the big crown jewel of Pittsburgh, the defense. That defense is better than your defense now, in my opinion. It's close, but I think they're a little better. It's like the Office Space clip. What do you do around here? What is it that you do around here?
What would you say you do here?
I wonder the direction of this team at a time where you don't seem to have a franchise quarterback and you don't seem to have the answers on the coaching staff. And I wonder about Tomlin's future not from getting fired, because I don't think he ever will, but for him. Can you do that next thing and get uncomfortable and be a great coach again? Because I believe that he's lost it in Pittsburgh. I think he's lost that juice that he had a decade ago, and I don't think this team has been exciting since Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown got shot out of a cannon. So that's my 2 cents on the offense and on the coaching and on everything. So I'm pass it over to you now.